How to protect yourself during legal separation. Ending a marriage is difficult, and a legal separation is no easier. A legal separation is like a divorce, except you and your spouse technically stay married. You formalize the separation by drafting a legal separation agreement. In the agreement, you divide up assets and debts. Although you may be feeling strong emotions brought about by the end of your marriage, you nonetheless need to protect your rights at each step of the separation process. Part 1. Protecting your relationship with your children. 1. Stay in the home. If you move out of the house, then you reduce the chances of getting joint custody. A judge will interpret your actions as a sign that you don't care about your children. If it is difficult to stay in the same house as your spouse, then you might want to time share. Under this arrangement, you both live in the house but at different times. For example, your spouse might spend Monday through Thursday at home while you stay Friday through Sunday. During the days off, you find a different place to live. For example, you and your spouse could rent an apartment. Each of you would then stay at the apartment while the other was staying with the children at home. This time-share arrangement does not need to last indefinitely. It only needs to last until child custody has been decided by a judge. 2. Visit often if you move out. You should maintain a close relationship with your children even if you are forced to move out of the home. Come up with a regular visitation schedule and follow it. By maintaining contact, you give yourself a stronger argument for getting custody of the children. A judge looks at a person's parenting pattern as well as their ability to provide for their children. Be sure to schedule overnight visits and weekends. You should not just drop by for an hour once or twice a week. 3. Maintain a good relationship with your spouse. When a judge decides child custody, she will look at several factors. One of the most important factors is whether you encouraged your children to maintain a relationship with their other parent. Accordingly, you should never speak negatively about your spouse in front of the children. You also shouldn't try to keep your children from visiting their other parent. If you do try to alienate your children from the other parent, you might lose custody. For this reason, keep negative thoughts about your spouse to yourself. 4. Ask for custody of the children. A judge will have to approve your legal separation. At that time, the judge will also decide custody. You should request joint custody of the children. If your spouse agrees, then you should include this custody arrangement in the legal separation agreement. You will also come up with a parenting schedule. For example, the children might live with one of you for 6 months of the year and with the other parent for the other 6 months. If your spouse does not agree to joint custody, then you will need to talk to your attorney about how to get a judge to grant it to you. Part 2. Drafting a legal separation agreement. 1. Set up a time to discuss a legal separation agreement. A legal separation agreement protects you financially. If you were to separate informally, then both you and your spouse would be responsible for joint debts. With a legal separation agreement, you and your spouse divide property and debts. The agreement should cover the following: division of property, division of debts and expenses, custody and visitation of children, child support and spousal support. 2. Divide your assets. You can leave the relationship with your individual, personal property. For example, if you were given a piece of jewelry from your grandmother, then it is not joint property. However, you and your spouse should identify joint assets and talk about who will get what. Real estate, including your home, household goods and furnishings, vehicles, bank accounts and employee benefits, such as 401k plans, pensions, or stocks. Other property bought with joint assets. 3. Divide your debts. Your legal separation agreement will also assign debts to one or both of you. You should gather financial documents and identify all of your debts. Then talk about how to divide them. One person could take over a debt entirely, such as the mortgage. You could also agree that both will contribute to the debt. In this situation, spell out the amount each person will contribute and which person will be responsible for making payment to the lender. You should also talk about regular expenses, such as childcare expenses and health insurance for children. Decide who will pay for these expenses. 4. Agree to a parenting plan. You should also try to come to an agreement about child custody and visitation. This might be the most difficult thing to agree on, but you should try to come to an agreement. If you can't decide on a parenting plan, then the judge will have to create one. Create a well-defined schedule. The more detailed you are, the more you will protect your rights to see your children. In your parenting plan, include who will have the children on vacations and holidays. Explain who is responsible for transporting the children to visitation and extracurricular activities. Assign specific parenting duties. For example, identify which parent will stay with the child if he or she is sick. Also explain who will take children to medical and dental appointments. Come up with a communication system. Should parents check in with each other once a week? Should they communicate by email or phone? Come up with a dispute resolution system. Although your parenting plan should be as comprehensive as possible, disputes will arise. Accordingly, you need to identify how you will settle disputes. Perhaps you will agree to mediate any disputes. 5. Settle on child support or alimony. If you have children, then the parent who doesn't have custody will probably have to contribute child support. There is really no way out of this obligation, so it is best to come to an agreement between the two of you before filing for a legal separation. You also need a judge to agree to your proposed child support payments. For this reason, you should look at your state law. Set child support payments at the level that a judge would order if you were getting divorced. For tips on how to calculate child support, see Calculate Child Support. Also discuss possible alimony. If your spouse makes substantially more than you do, you should press for alimony payments. Alimony can be indefinite or short-term. For example, you might agree to short-term alimony so that you can attend college and get a degree. If you decide to pay alimony, make sure to include the terms of the agreement, the amount, the length of time, and any conditions which would end alimony, such as remarriage. 6. Get a lawyer's help. You might need an attorney during the separation process. For example, you and your spouse will probably disagree about how to divide assets and debts. A lawyer can help you negotiate with your spouse when drafting the legal separation agreement. Also, you might need a lawyer's help when appearing before the judge to obtain your legal separation. A lawyer can help you fill out the paperwork properly and represent you in court. For tips on how to hire a divorce attorney, see Choose the Right Divorce Lawyer. Part 3. Protecting your finances. 1. Open a separate bank account. You should open your own bank account as soon as you decide to separate. Doing so will prevent your spouse from taking the money or spending it without your knowledge. If you have direct deposit, be sure to tell your employer so that your paycheck can be deposited into your new account. Also request new checks. If you have automatic bill payment, then make sure to set that up on your new account. 2. Check credit card statements. If you and your spouse had a joint credit card, then you should review the statement. Look for large withdrawals or unusual purchases. You should also close the credit card, if you can. Ask a divorce attorney how to go about doing this. 3. Secure your property. If you are leaving the marriage with your personal possessions, then you will want to make sure that they are secure. Store them somewhere where they can't be damaged or misplaced. You might also want to store stuff with a friend or family member. You might need to rent a safety deposit box for smaller items or space at a storage facility for larger items. By doing so, you can keep your property safe from accidental damage or from your spouse taking revenge. 4. Start saving money. You should begin cutting expenses as soon as possible. It costs more to live on your own than it does with another adult who pays half of the bills. For this reason, you should immediately begin cutting inessential expenses. You can cut cable television, extra television lines, and meals at restaurants. Set up a budget and stick to it. This way, you will get used to living on less before you end up moving out of the house. Part 4. Protecting your health. 1. Tell people about the separation. You shouldn't keep a legal separation a secret. Instead, you should be open with your close family. You need to tell them so that they are not surprised down the road by the separation. You can start by telling only your closest family members. However, as time passes, you can and should tell more people. If you will be moving out of the house, then your friends should know where you will be staying. 2. Complain to a friend. If you need someone to vent to, then ask a friend out to lunch. It is better to vent away from your children and away from your spouse. Try to rotate through friends so that you don't overwhelm any one individual with your complaints. Even the most sympathetic friend will be able to handle only so much negativity. Also think about visiting a therapist. You might benefit from meeting with a professional counselor or therapist, especially if you have suffered from clinical depression in the past. 3. Exercise regularly. If you are an emotional eater, then try to substitute exercise for snacking. Exercise helps reduce stress and can give you a more positive outlook on your future. Join a gym. Although you don't have to join a gym is helpful especially if you live in a cold weather state. You will always have a place to go. Gyms also frequently provide group exercise programs and personal trainers, which can make exercise fun. Get a workout buddy. Your exercise buddy can keep you honest and make sure that you get out of the house and exercise according to schedule. Ask a friend to be your workout buddy and set an exercise schedule you both will follow. 4. Eat healthy. Separating from a spouse is enormously stressful. You need to eat healthy so that you can alleviate some of the stress that you feel. Try to eat 3 meals a day, balancing protein, fats, and carbohydrates. This way, you won't suffer from sugar highs or sugar crashes. Also drink plenty of water. Dehydration can increase stress hormones, so it is important to get enough water during the day. 5. Get a restraining order. Some couples can split and maintain a friendly relationship. Other couples have a history of violence. If you ever feel threatened by your spouse, then you should get a restraining order. You can apply for a restraining order by visiting the courthouse. The court clerk should be able to help you complete the necessary paperwork. You can often get a temporary restraining order without having to talk to a judge. However, in order to get a permanent restraining order, you will have to attend a hearing. You can also have your lawyer help you get the restraining order.